Welcome to the stream. I know this is a little different than maybe what you're used to. I'm trying this out for the first time. This is reading out loud, or ASMR auditory reading, and I've also tried to include the material that I'm reading for your ability to either read along if you would like, or if you just want to listen. I'm going to be trying my best. I'm not an ASMR professional. As a matter of fact, I'm just starting out. So if there's anything in particular you think that I'm doing right or wrong, feel free to leave it in the comments. Just please be kind to anyone else who comes on the stream, and let me know in general what you think. So today we have We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. I think I'm saying that right. And it is in the public domain. It is also reportedly the predecessor or the inspiration for Orwell's 1984, kind of keeping with a little bit of my, shall we say, my brand, which there isn't much to speak of, but I have written a short horror story, which you can find at slfunkrights.com. The picture is in the corner. It's called The Accordion Train. Feel free to download it for free, to check it out if you so wish. It is also on Kobo for free under SL Funk Rights or The Accordion Train. I am going to try to do this every so often. I'm trying to figure out a schedule, but so far I have not figured out a perfect schedule so far, so please bear with me, since I am also trying to upgrade my hardware, and all of the support I can get here is very much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming by this stream and helping a girl out. I think without further ado, we're going to get started. This is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, and it is in the public domain. A lot of the material or sources that I'm going to be reading aloud are from Project Guggenheim, where a lot of the books and resources are currently kept in the public domain, where they are copyright. Basically, they are not they are royalty free to read. So hopefully Twitch does not get angry at me for beginning from chapter 1 of this book. By the way, I'm also going to make a disclaimer. I have not read We. So if there are moments where I stop to either make sure I say something correctly or make sure I understood something correctly, please forgive me. This will just be like me reading you a kind of a dystopian drama bedtime story. So please enjoy. There is a foreword that we're going to skip. Let's go to record 1. Let's begin. Record 1. An announcement of the wisest of lines, a poem. This is merely a copy, word by word, of what was published this morning in the state newspaper. In another 120 days, the building of the Integral will be completed. The great historic hour is near, when the first integral will rise into the limitless space of the universe. 1,000 years ago, your heroic ancestors subjected the whole earth to the power of the United State. A still more glorious task is before you, the integration of the indefinite equation of the cosmos by the use of the glass, electric, fire-breathing integral. Your mission is to subjugate to the grateful yoke of reason the unknown beings who live on other planets and who are perhaps still in the primitive state of freedom. If they will not understand that we are bringing them a mathematically faultless happiness, our duty will be to force them to be happy. But before we can take up arms, we shall try the power of words. In the name of the well-doer, the following is announced herewith to all members of the United States. Whoever feels capable must consider it his duty to write treatises, poems, manifestos, odes, and other compositions on the greatness of the beauty of the United States. This will be the first load which the integral will carry. Long live the United States, long live the numbers, long live the well-doer. I feel my cheeks are burning as I write this, to integrate the colossal universal equation, to unbend the wild curve, to straighten it out into a tangent. To a straight line, for the United States is a straight line, a great, divine, precise, well-line, wise line, the wisest of lines. I, D503, the builder of the integral. I am only one of the many mathematicians of the United States. My pen, which is accustomed to figures, is unable to express the march and rhythm of consonants. Therefore, I shall try to record only the things I see, the things I think, or to be more exact, the things we think. Yes, we. That is exactly what I mean. And we shall therefore be the title of my records. But this will only be a derivative of our life, of our mathematical perfect life in the United States. If this be so, will not this derivative be a poem in itself, despite my limitations? It will, I believe, I know it. I feel my cheeks are burning as I write this. I feel something similar to what a woman probably feels for the first time she senses within herself the pulse of a tiny, blind human being. It is I, and I at the same time, it is not I. And for many long months, it will be necessary to feed it with my life, with my blood, and then with a pain at my heart, to tear it from myself and lay it at the feet of the United States. Hey Zalden, how's it been? It's good. It's good. I'm trying something new today. Hopefully it's good. I'm reading a dystopian novel out loud. And this is just the first part. I just started. How are your streams going? I know you have a kind of a long, busy schedule doing all that. And I'm going to resume right here. Yes, I am ready, as everyone, or nearly every one of us, is. I am ready. And that was the first part. We're going to move on to the next. Record 2. Ballet, Square Harmony X. Spring. From behind the green wall, from some unknown plains, the wind brings us the yellow honeyed pollen of flowers. One's lips are dry from the sweet dust. Every moment one passes, one's tongue over them. Probably all women whom I meet in the street, and men certainly also, have today sweet lips. This disturbs somewhat my logical thinking. But the sky is blue. Its limpidness is not marred by a single cloud. How primitive was the taste of the ancients, since their poets were always inspired by these senseless, formless, stupidly rushed accumulations of steam. I am sure it will not be an error if I say we love only such a sky, a sterile, faultless sky. On such days, the whole universe seems to be molded of the same eternal glass, like the green wall, and like all our other buildings. On such days, one sees into the very blue depth of things. One sees their wonderful equations, hitherto unknown. One sees them in everything, even in the most ordinary, everyday things. It's been acting up, I see. That stinks. Honestly, the quality of my streams is so bad because I really need to upgrade my computer as well. I'm going to resume. Here is an example. This morning, I was on the dock where the integral is being built, and I saw the lathes blindly, with abandon. The balls of the regulators were rotating. The cranks were swinging from side to side with a glimmer. The working beam proudly swung its shoulder, and the mechanical chisels were dancing into the melody of an unheard tarantella. I suddenly perceived all the music, all the beauty of this colossal, of this mechanical ballet, illumined, my bad, by the light blue rays of sunshine. Then the thought came, why beautiful? Why is a dance beautiful? Answer, because it is unfree movement. Because the deep meaning of the dance is contained in its absolute ecstatic submission from the ideal non-freedom. If it is true that our ancestors would abandon themselves in dancing at the most inspired moments of their lives, religious mysteries, military parades, then it comes only one thing. Means, wow, I can't read. Starting off great. I'll try that again. Then it means only one thing. The instinct of non-freedom has been characteristic of human nature from ancient times, and we, in our life today, we are only consciously. I was interrupted. The switchboard clicked. I raised my eyes. 090, of course. In half a minute, she herself will be here to take me for the walk. Dear O, she always seemed to me to look like her name, O. She is approximately 10 centimeters shorter than the required maternal norm. Therefore, she appears all round. The rose-colored O of her lips is open to meet every word of mine. She is a round, soft dimple on her wrist. Children have such dimples. As she came in, the logical flywheel was still buzzing in my head, and following its inertia, I began to tell her about my new formula, which embraced the machines and the dancers and all of us. Wonderful, isn't it? I asked. Yes, wonderful. Spring, she replied with a rosy smile. You see? Spring. She talks about spring. Females. I become silent. We are down in the street. The avenue is crowded. On days when the weather is so beautiful, and the afternoon personal hour is usually an hour of the supplementary walk. As always, the big musical tower is playing with all its pipes the March of the United States, the numbers, hundreds and thousands of numbers in light blue unifs, probably a derivative of the ancient uniform, with golden badges on the chest, the state number of each one, male or female, or any in between. The numbers were walking slowly, 4 abreast, exultantly stepping and keeping in step. We 4, were but one of the innumerable waves of a powerful torrent. To my left, 090, if one of my long-haired ancestors were writing this 1,000 years ago, he would probably call her that funny word, mine. To my right, 2 unknown numbers, as she number and a he number. Blue skies, tiny baby suns in each one of our badges. Our faces are unclouded by the insanity of thoughts. Rays. Do you picture it? Everything seems to be made of a kind of smiling, a ray-like matter. And the brass measures tra-ta-ta-dum, tra-ta-ta-dum, stamping on the brassy steps which sparkle in the sun. With every step you rise higher and higher into the dizzy blue heights. Then, as this morning on the dock, I again saw, as if for the first time in my life, the impeccably straight streets, the glistening glass of the pavement, the divine parallelepipeds, there we go, of the transparent dwelling, and the square harmony of the grayish-blue rows of numbers. It seems to me that not past generations, but I myself had won a victory over the old gods and the old life, that I myself had created all of this. I felt like a tower. I was afraid to move my elbow, lest the walls, the cupola of machines should fall into pieces. Then, without warning, a jump through centuries, I remembered, apparently through an association by contrast, a picture of, in the museum, a picture of an avenue in the 20th century. A thundering, many-colored confusion of men, wheels, animals, billboards, trees, colors, and birds. They all, they say all this once actually existed. It seems to me so incredible, so absurd that I lost control of myself and laughed aloud, a laugh as if to echo of mine. Reaching my ear from the right, reached my ear from the right. I turned. I saw white, very white, sharp teeth in an unfamiliar female face. I beg your pardon, she said, but you looked about you like an inspired mythological god on the seventh day of creation. You looked as though you were sure that I, too, was created by you, by no one but you. It is very flattering. Is this what counts as flirting? All this was without a smile, even with a certain degree of respect. She may know that I am the builder of the integral. In her eyes, nevertheless, and her brows, were a strange, irritated X, and I was unable to grasp it, to find an arithmetic. Oh my gosh, can I even say that? Arithmetical. Oh my gosh, arithmetical. Mathematical. I'll say that. Expression for it. Somehow I was confused, and with a somewhat hazy mind, I tried to logically and to motivate my laughter. It was absolutely clear that this contrast, this impassable abyss between the things of today and of years ago. But why impassable? What bright, sharp teeth. One might throw a bridge over that abyss. Please imagine a drum battalion, rows. All of this existed before it, and consequentially, oh yes, it is clear, I exclaimed. I might have to take a break in a moment. I keep missaying words anyway. It was a remarkable intersection of thoughts. She said almost in the same words the things I wrote down before the walk. Do you understand? Even the thought. Thank you, Zeldin, for the shout-out. It is because no one is one, but one of. We are all so much alike. Are you sure? I noticed her brows, which rose to the temples in an acute angle, like the sharp corners of an X. Again I was confused, casting a glance to the right, then to the left. To my right, she, slender, abrupt, resistantly flexible, like a whip. I, 330. I saw her number now. To my left, O, totally different, made of all circles with childlike dimples on her wrist, and the very end of our row, an unknown he number, double curved like the letter S. We were all so different from one another. The one on my right, I 330, apparently caught my confused eye, and she said with a sigh, yes, alas. I don't deny that this exclamation was quite in place, but again there was something in her face or in her voice, with an abruptness unusual for me. I said, why, alas? Science is developing, and if not now, then within 50 or 100 years. Even the noses will. Yes, noses. This time I almost shouted, since there is still a reason, no matter what, for envy, since my nose is is button-like, and everyone else's is. I almost said butt-ton. Can you believe that? Well, once this one's over, I might take a break, just momentarily. Well, your nose is rather classic, as they would say in the ancient days. Although your hands... No, show me your hands. I hate to have anyone look at my hands. They are still covered with long hair. A stupid atavism. I stretched out my hand and said as indifferently as I could, ape-like. She glanced at my hand, then at my face. No, a very curious harmony. She weighed me with her eyes as though with scales. The little horns again appeared at the corner of her brows. He is registered in my name, exclaimed O90 with a rosy smile. Oops. I made a grimace. Strictly speaking, she was out of order. My dear O, how shall I say it? The speed of her tongue is not correctly calculated. The speed per second of her tongue should be slightly less than a second per second. Speed per second than her thoughts, at any rate, not the reverse. At the end of the avenue, the big bell of the accumulated tower resounded 17. The personal hour was at an end. I-330 was leaving us with that S-like key number. He has such a respectable, and I noticed then, such a familiar face. I almost said similar. I must have met him somewhere, but where I could not remember. Upon leaving me, I-330 said, with the same X-like smile, "Drop in day after tomorrow at Auditorium 112. I shrugged my shoulders. If I am assigned to the auditorium you just named. She, with a peculiar, incomprehensible certainty, "You will." The woman had upon me a disagreeable effect, like an irrational component of an equation, which you cannot eliminate. I was glad to remain alone with dear O, at least for a short while. Hand in hand with her, I passed 4 lines of avenues, and at the next corner she went to the right, I to the left. O timidly raised her round blue crystalline eyes. "I would like so much to come to you today, and pull down the curtains, especially today, right now." How funny she is. But what could I say to her? She was with me only yesterday, and she knows as well as I that our next sexual day is day after tomorrow. It is merely another case in which her thoughts are too far ahead. It sometimes happens that the spark comes too early to the motor. At parting, I kissed her twice. No, I shall be exact, 3 times, on her wonderful blue eyes, such clear, unclouded eyes. I think I'm going to take maybe a 5-minute break, and we will resume in just a moment. Be right back. And we're back. Hi, Salties. How are you? I'm trying something new today. So, we'll see how it continues. We are at Record 3, or Chapter 3, of We by, I always mess up his name. Let me pull up the cover again. You're reading We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. It's public domain and is reportedly the the inspiration or the predecessor to George Orwell's 1984. So we have a lovely dystopian future story going on. I'm going to put my little arrow in the corner. For those of you who don't know, you can enable this little arrow on Apple devices to read certain things aloud. So, welcome to the stream. Just relax or listen along. I also have it up on the screen so you can read along with me. And every once in a while I will respond to your chats. So hopefully you enjoy. I know it's a little different. By the way, I'm going to plug my story, The Accordion Train, there in the corner. It is available to download for free at slfunkrights.com, or it is on Kobo as well for free, the low price of free. So if you want to help support me or support up-and-coming, I shouldn't say up-and-coming, but an author just starting out, I would really appreciate it. Anyway, let's get back into the story. Record 3, a coat, a wall, the tables. I looked over all that I wrote down yesterday, and I found that my descriptions are not sufficiently clear. That is, everything would undoubtedly be clear to one of us, but who knows to whom my integral will someday bring these records. Perhaps you, like our ancestors, have read the great book of civilization only up to the page of 900 years ago. Perhaps you don't know even such elementary things as the hour tables, personal hours, maternal norm, green wall, well-doer. It seems droll to me that the same time very difficult, here I go again, to explain these things. It is as though, let us say, a writer of the 20th century should start to explain in his novel in which words as coat, apartment, wife. Yet, if his novel had been translated for primitive races, how could he have avoided explaining what a coat meant? I am sure that the primitive man could look at a coat and think, what is this for? It is only a burden, an unnecessary burden. I am sure that you will feel the same if I tell you that not one of us has ever stepped beyond the green wall since the 200 Years' War. But dear readers, you must think, at least a little, it helps. It is clear that the history of mankind, as far as our knowledge goes, is the history of the transition from nomadic forms to more sedentary ones. Does it not follow the most sedentary form of life, ours, is at the same time the most perfect one? There was a time when people were rushing from one end of the earth to another. But this was the prehistoric time when such things as nations, wars, commerce, different discoveries of different Americas still existed. Who has need of these things now? I admit humanity acquired a habit of sedentary form of life, not without difficulty, and not at once. When the 200 Years' War had destroyed all the roads, which later were overgrown with grass, it was probably very different at first. It seemed uncomfortable to live in cities, which were cut off from each other by green debris. But what of it? Man, soon after he lost his tail, probably did not learn at once how to chase away flies without its help. I am almost sure that at first he was even lonesome without his tail. But now, you can imagine yourself with a tail? Or can you imagine yourself walking in the street naked, without clothes? It is possible you go without clothes still. Here we have the same case. I cannot imagine a city in which is not clad with the green wall. I cannot imagine a life that is not clad with the figures of our tables. Tables. Now even purple figures look at me austerely yet kindly from the golden background of the wall. Involuntarily I am reminded of the things which were called by the ancients sainted image, and I feel a desire to compose verses or prayers at the same time, which are the same. Oh, why am I not a poet? Oh, I can't read. Let me try again. Oh, why am not I a poet, so as to be able properly to glorify the tables, the heart and pulse of the United States? All of us, and perhaps all of you, read in childhood while in school that the greatest of all monuments of the ancient literature was the official railroad guide. But if you compare this to the tables, you will see side by side graphite and diamonds. Both are the same, carbon. But how eternal, transparent, how shining the diamond! Who does not lose his breath when he runs through the pages of the guide? The tables transformed each one of us, actually, into a six-wheeled steel hero of a great poem. Every morning, with six-wheeled precision, at the same hour, at the same minute, we wake up, millions of us at once. At the very same hour, millions like one, we begin our work, and millions like one, we finish it. United into a single body, with a million hands, at the very same second, designated by the tables, we carry the spoons into our mouths. At the same second, we all go out to walk, go to the auditorium, to the halls where the tailors exercise, and then to bed, where the tailor exercises, and then to bed. I misread that, my bad. I shall be quite frank, even if we have not attained the absolute exact solution of the problem of happiness. Twice a day, from 16 to 17 o'clock, and then from 21 to 22, our united powerful organism dissolves into separate cells. My brain was too dirty to read that sentence, but we will continue. These are the personal hours designated by the tables. During these hours, you will see the curtains discreetly drawn in the rooms of some. Others march slowly over the pavement of the main avenue, or sit at their desks as I sit now. But I firmly believe, let them call me an idealist or a dreamer, I believe that sooner or later we shall somehow find even for these hours a place in the general formula. Somehow, all of the 86,400 seconds will be incorporated into the tables of hours. I have had opportunity to read and hear many improbable things about those times when human beings still lived in the state of freedom, that is, an unorganized, primitive state. One thing has always seemed to me the most improbable. How could a government, even a primitive government, permit people to live? Oh my gosh. That was rude, Siri. Well, we still have some thunderstorms going, so that's fine. Sorry for the interruption. Let's continue. How could a government, even a primitive government, permit people to live without anything like our tables, without compulsory walks, without precise regulation of the time to eat? for instance. They would get up and go to bed whenever they liked. Some historians even say that in those days the streets were lighted all night, and all night people went about the streets. What I cannot understand, true, that I cannot understand. True, their minds were rather limited in those days. Yet they should have understood, should they not, that such a life was actually wholesale murder, although slow murder, day after day. The state, humanitarianism, forbade in those days the murder of one person, but it did not forbid the killing of millions slowly and by half. To kill one, that is, to reduce the general sum of human life by 50 years, was considered criminal, but to reduce the general sum of human life by 50 million years was not considered criminal. Is that not droll? Today, this simple mathematical moral problem could easily be solved in a minute and a half's time by any 10-year-old number, yet they couldn't do it. All their Immanuel Kants together couldn't do it. It didn't enter the heads of all their Kants to build a system of scientific ethics, that is, ethics based on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Further, is it not absurd that their state, they called it state, left sexual life absolutely without control? However, whenever and as such as they wanted, absolutely unscientific like beasts, and like beasts, they blindly gave birth to children. Is it not strange to understand gardening, chicken farming, fishery? We have definite knowledge that they were familiar with all these things, and not to be able to reach the last step in this logical scale, namely production of children, not to be able to discover such things as maternal and paternal norms. It is so droll, so improbable, that while I write this, I am afraid lest you, my unknown future readers, should think I am merely a bad jester. I feel almost as though you may think I simply want to mock you, and with the most serious appearance try to relate to you absolute nonsense. But first, I am incapable of jesting, for in every joke a lie has its hidden function. And second, the science of the United States contends with the life of the ancients, was exactly as I am describing, and the science of the United States cannot make a mistake. Yet how could they have state logic, since they lived in a condition of freedom like beasts, like apes, like herds? What could one What could one expect of them, since even in our day, one hears from time to time, coming from the bottom, now we're here. ADHD got me. Here we go. Since even in our day, one hears from time to time, coming from the bottom, the primitive depths, the echo of the apes. Fortunately, it happens only from time to time, very seldom. Happily, it is only a small case of small parts breaking. These may easily be repaired without stopping the eternal great march of the whole machine. And in order to eliminate a broken peg, we have to be skillful. We have the skillful heavy hand of the well-doer. We have the experienced eyes of the guardians. By the way, I just thought of that number whom I met yesterday, the double-curved one like the letter S. I think I have seen him several times coming out of the bureau of the guardians. I now understand why I have felt such an instinctive respect for him and a kind of awkwardness when that strange I-330 at his side. I must confess that they ring a bell. Time to sleep. It is 22:30. Till tomorrow, then. Apologies for saying some of the words. It is a bit late, but we've been doing well so far, just over 45 minutes. So, for those of you who stuck around, is this something that you would listen to, or is this a good idea? Should I continue to do more of my old productivity streams, writing streams? I have no real plans to give that up. I just wanted to try something new for tonight and maybe make it a new thing that I would do. And I appreciate those who stuck around to watch for a while. Getting me up to an average of 3 or 4 viewers per stream for a while will help me get to affiliate state, and I would really appreciate that. Able to make this streaming thing more of a reality in my daily life. Right now I'm just kind of doing it experimentally. So yes, any advice or any feedback would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to get a sip of water. Thanks, McPhoenix. You should come by. I know most of you guys from Storyfire, at least, maybe not all of you, but a good many of you come from the East Coast, so I understand most of you on the East Coast are turning down for bed, if not already. This is one of the reasons why I decided to do this a bit later at night, seeing as more people would be trying to relax. And yes, I do have a new mic. That's why I'm speaking a little more quietly. And I will be completely honest. I have been trying to... Oh, McPhoenix, thank you so much. Oh, you have no idea what that means. I guess I just wanted to say that I have been trying to research more ASMR things, and I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little strange out here reading public domain old stories rather than the more, we'll say, risque content out there. Number one, I don't have a camera, I don't show my face on stream, and I have thought about it before, but I am more comfortable with just my voice. More auditory it's more my speed, so, and I also just generally feel uncomfortable with doing anything more risque on the internet, so I realize I am competing with, if I do ASMR content, I will be competing with that side of things, but it's not really what I see myself doing. I have no problem reading, I have no problem setting kind of a relaxing atmospheric tone, I have no problem experimenting with different kinds of ASMR or sounds, but this is where I'm currently comfortable, and it kind of still fits with my what's the word, I keep saying branding, that's not really what I mean, but my branding as a writer, and so far I'm sticking with public domain titles so that I can safely stream them and hopefully not be, copyright struck with anything. So I understand that maybe some of this stuff is very familiar, or you don't need to come to a stream in order to read it. This is completely free online. I didn't have to pay a cent for this ebook. I understand that this stuff isn't exactly exclusive, but this is more or less experimental at this point, and if it's something that more than a few people can enjoy, then I think I will continue to do it as well as I can. Let's see. Who's following? Kenzie TV. Thank you so much for the follow. Good night to you as well. Oop. There we go. And I think we will resume the story. I'm going to maybe read a bit slower get a bit closer if you'll excuse me a moment. Okay. Chapter 4, or Record 4. The wild man with a barometer, epilepsy if... Why does it say that? Yeah. That's how it goes. Until today, everything in life seemed to me clear. That is why I think I always had a sort of partiality toward the word clear. But today, I don't understand. First, I really was assigned to the auditorium 112, as she said, although the probability was as 500 to 10 million, or 1 to 20,000. 500 is the number of auditoriums, and there are 10 million numbers. And second, but let me relate things in successive order. The auditorium, an enormous half-globe of glass with the sun piercing through. The circular rows of noble, globe-like, closely shaven heads. With joy in my heart, I looked around. I believe I was looking in the hope of seeing the rose-colored scythe, the dear lips of O, somewhere among the blue waves of the universe. Then I saw extraordinarily white, sharp teeth like the... But no, tonight at 21 o'clock, O was to come to me. Therefore my desire to see her was quite natural. The bell. We stood up, sang the hymn of the United States, and our clever phono lecturer appeared on the platform with a sparkling golden megaphone. Respected numbers, not so long ago, our archaeologists dug up a book written in the 20th century. In this book, the ironical author tells about a wild man and a barometer. The wild man noticed that every time the barometer's hand stopped on the word rain, it actually rained. And as the wild man craved rain, he let out as much mercury as was necessary to put it at the level of the word rain. On the screen, a wild man with feathers, letting out the mercury laughter. You are laughing at him, but don't you think the European of that age deserves more than to be laughed at? I can't read. More to be laughed at. He, like the wild man, wanted rain. Rain with a little r, an algebraic rain, but he remained standing before the barometer like a wet hen. The wild man at least had more courage and energy in logic, although primitive logic. The wild man showed the ability to establish a connection between cause and effect. By letting out the mercury, he made the first step on the path which... Here, I repeat, I am not concealing anything. I am setting down everything. I suddenly became... Oh boy, let me set myself up for this. Impermeable to the quickening currents coming from the megaphone. I suddenly felt that I come here in vain. Why in vain, and how could I not have come here, where I was assigned? Everything seemed to me empty like a shell. I succeeded in difficulty in switching my attention in again when the phono lecturer came to the main theme of the evening. I'm trying so hard. Maybe I'm more tired than I thought. All right, well, we'll continue. I succeeded in difficulty in switching my attention in again to the phono lecturer came to the main theme of the evening, to our music as a mathematical composition, mathematics and its cause, music the effect. The phono lecturer began the description of the recently invented musicometer. I feel like I should come up with funny voices for these characters. I'll resume here. This is what was coming from the phono lecturer. By merely rotating this handle, any one of is enabled to produce about 3 sonatas per hour. What difficulties our predecessors had in making music. They were able to compose only by bringing themselves to strokes of inspiration, an extinct form of epilepsy. Well, damn, that's an assumption. Here you have an amazing illustration of our achievements. The music of, Scriabin, 20th century. This black box, a curtain parted at the platform, and we saw an ancient instrument. This box they called the Royal Grand. They attached it to the idea of regality, which also goes to prove how their music, ... And I don't remember any further. Very possibly because, I'll tell you frankly, because she, I-330, came to the royal box. Probably I was simply startled by her unexpected appearance on the platform. She was dressed in a fantastic dress of the ancient time, a black dress closely fitted to the body, sharply delimiting the white of her shoulders and breasts, and that Yes, this is experimental, and I am trying. I don't read out loud that often anymore. Okay. I'll start from the top of the paragraph. She was dressed in a fantastic dress of the ancient time, a black dress closely fitting with the body, sharply delimiting the white of her shoulders and breasts, and that warm shadow waving with her breath between, and the dazzling, almost angry teeth, a smile, a bite, directed downward. She took her seat. She began to play something wild, convulsive, loud like all of their life then, not a shadow of rational mechanism. Of course, all of those around me were right. They were laughing. Only a few. But why was it that I, too, yes, epilepsy, a mental disease, a pain, a slow, sweet pain, bite, and it goes deeper and becomes sharper. And then, slowly, sunshine. Not our sunshine. Not crystalline, bluish and soft, coming through the glass bricks. No, a wild sunshine, rushing and burning, tearing everything into small bits. The number at my left glanced at me and chuckled. I don't know why I remembered her exactly how a microscopic saliva bubble appeared on his lips and burst. That bubble brought me back to myself. I was again I. Like all the numbers I heard now, only the senseless, disorderly crackling of chords, I laughed. I felt so light and simple. The gifted phono lecturer represented to us only too well that wild epoch. And that was all. With what a joy I listened afterward to our contemporary music. It was demonstrated to us at the end of the lecture for the sake of contrast. Crystalline, chromatic scales converging and diverging into endless series and synthetic harmony of the formula of Taylor and Maclaurin, wholesome, square, and massive like the trousers of the Pythagoras. Sad melodies dying away in weaving movements. The beautiful texture of the spectrum of planets dissected by, oh my goodness, Fraunhofer lines. There we go. What magnificent, what perfect regularity. How pitiful the willful music of the ancients, not limited except by the scope of their wild imagination. As usual, in good order, 4 abreast, all of us left the auditorium. The familiar double-curved figure passed swiftly by. I respectfully bowed. Dear O was to come in an hour. I felt agitated, agreeably and usefully. Home at last, I rushed to the house office, handed over the controller on my duty to my pink ticket, and received a certificate permitting the use of the curtains. This right exists in our state only for the sexual days. Normally, we live surrounded by transparent walls, which seem to be knitted of sparkling air. We live beneath the eye of everyone, always bathed in light. We have nothing to conceal from one another. Besides, this mode of living makes the difficult and exalted task of living of the guardians much easier. The difficult and exalted task of the guardians much easier. That's what it says. Without it, many bad things might happen. It is possible that the strange, opaque dwellings of the ancients were responsible for their pitiful selfish psychology. My home is my fortress. How did they manage to think of such things? At 22 o'clock, I lowered the curtain, and at the same second O came in smiling, slightly out of breath. She extended to me her rosy lips and her pink ticket. I tore off the stub, which I could not tear myself away from the rosy lips up to that last moment. 22:15. Then I showed her my Is this a sex scene? It is. I'm about to read a sex scene on stream. Except it's probably not going to be very sexy. Alright, here we go. Then I showed her my diary. Why do I say dairy? Showed her my diary and talked. I think I talked very well on the beauty of the square, of a cube, of a straight line. At first, she listened so charmingly. She was so rosy. And then suddenly a tear appeared in her blue eyes. Then another. Then a third fell straight onto the open page. Page 7. The ink blurred. Well, I shall have to copy it again. My dear, oh, if only you. What if? If what? Again, the old lament about a child or perhaps something new regarding the other one? Although it seems as though but it would be too absurd. Well, that one, I'm just getting increasingly more ADHD as I go. I will take another break, but this time it'll be a little bit shorter. How about 2 minutes, and I will be right back. who might watch this VOD back later. We are reading We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, which is the supposed precursor or inspiration behind George Orwell's 1984. It's a dystopian novel where, just kind of catching everyone up, it's written from kind of the point of view of the main character. I think his name is, I can't remember his name, but everyone goes by a number. And it's him just chronicling his daily life. He is a individual who has worked on either a tower or like a mathematical formula called integral, and it is important to everyone's everyday life within the city, which is housed within these green walls. They live very mathematically, just rigidly. They live kind of like by the perfect formula, which basically takes away everyone's personhood, and they are very smart individually, but everything in their life is regulated to the point of them having just barely any free time or free thought. They are able to think freely, but they are encouraged not to do so. And I think our dude is falling in love with someone who is not his quote-unquote wife, his assigned sexual partner, we shall say. And I'm assuming she is the sexual partner of someone called a guardian, who is someone who is, I'm going to assume, is like law enforcement. So we got ourselves a little forbidden love story going on amongst this dystopian era that I can only assume, I mean, it was written in the 20s, the 1920s, and Orwell's 1984, Orwell did read this before he finished 1984, so you can see maybe some similarities with 1984. I will just say I have not actually read We. This is my first time reading We. So if I tend to flub the words a lot or mispronounce things, or like I said, dairy instead of diary, even though dairy makes no sense within context. I did fix it, but just know that I might mess up some of the words. This is not replacement for a proper audiobook, which I'm sure you can find anywhere online right now, but this is just an experimental reading aloud, slightly ASMR soothing sounds. So thank you for your support and for listening, and we'll jump into the next chapter, which is chapter 5. And you can see now I've gone into dark mode, and I have notifications popping up every once in a while. How did that happen? Hold on. Oh, okay, I see. Maybe I can turn it back to light here. Well, I kind of like it. We'll leave it as it is. Anyway, continuing with Record 5. The Square, the Rulers of the World, an agreeable, useful function. Again with you, my unknown reader. Ooh, excuse me, already. I talk to you as though you were, let us say, my old comrade, Arthur Team, the poet with the lips of, I will not say that word, but it is spelled Negro. Well, everyone knows him. Yet you are somewhere on the moon, or on Venus, or on Mars. Who knows you? Where and who are you? Imagine a square, a living, beautiful square. Imagine that this square is obliged to tell you about itself, about its life. You realize that the square would hardly think it necessary to mention the fact that all of its 4 angles are equal. It knows this too well. This is such an ordinary, obvious thing. I am in exactly the same square position. Take the pink checks, for instance, and all that goes with them. For me, they are as natural as the equality of the four angles of the square. But for you, they are perhaps more mysterious and hard to understand than the binomial of Newton. Let me explain. An ancient sage once said a clever thing, accidentally beyond doubt. He said, "Love and hunger rule the world." Consequently, to dominate the world, man had to win a victory over hunger after paying a very high price. I refer to the great 200 Years' War, a war between the city and the land, probably on account of religious prejudices. The primitive peasants stubbornly held to their own bread. In the 35th year before the foundation of the United States, our contemporary petroleum food was invented. True, only about 2/10 of the population of the globe did not die out. But how beautiful shining the face of the earth became when it was cleared of its impurities. This word came to us for use of only a poetic form for the chemical constitution of the substance. It is unknown to us. Bread. So bread does not exist in this new world. Accordingly, the 0.2 which survived have enjoyed the greatest happiness in the bosom of the United States. But it is not clear that trying to blend these words together. Supreme bliss and envy are only the numerator and the denominator, respectively, of the same fraction. Happiness? What sense would the innumerable sacrifices of the 200 Years' War have for us if a reason were left in our life for jealousy? Yet such a reason persisted because we were remained button-like noses and classic noses. Our conversation during the promenade. For there were some whose love was sought by everyone and others whose love was sought by no one. Naturally, having conquered hunger, that is, algebraically speaking, having achieved a total of bodily welfare, the United States directed its attack against the second ruler of the world, against love. At last this element also was conquered, that is, organized and put into a mathematical formula. It is already 300 years since our great historic Lex Sexualis was promulgated. A number may obtain a license to use any other number as a sexual product. The rest is only a matter of technique. You are carefully examined in the laboratory. Excuse me. Laboratory. I say laboratory. If I say laboratory, I turn into, what's his name? Dexter. I'm sorry, that snuck me out of it. Okay. This is what it's going to be like if I read out loud. I'm going to have moments where my ADHD just takes me off the rails for a sec. Alright, here we go. You are carefully examined in the laboratory of the sexual department, where they find the content of the sexual hormones in your blood, and they make out for you accordingly a table of sexual days. Then you file an application to enjoy the services of number so-and-so, or of number so-and-so. You get for that purpose a checkbook, pink. That is all. It is clear that under such circumstances there is no more reason for envy or jealousy. The denominator of the fraction of happiness is reduced to 0, and the whole fraction is thus converted into a magnificent infiniteness. The thing which was, for the ancients, the source of innumerable stupid tragedies, has been converted in our time into a harmonious, agreeable, and useful function of the organism, a function like sleep, like physical labor, like taking of food, digestion, etc., etc. Hence, you see how the great power of logic purifies everything it happens to touch. Oh, if only you unknown readers can conceive this divine power, if you will only learn to follow it to the end. It is very strange, while I was writing today of the loftiest summit of human history, all the while I breathed the purest mountain air of thought. But within me it was and remains cloudy, cobwebby, and there is a kind of cross-like four-pawed X. Or perhaps it is my paws, and I feel like that only because they are always before my eyes, my hairy paws. I don't like to talk about them. I dislike them. They are a trace of a primitive epoch. Is it possible that there is in me... Is it possible that there is in me? I wanted to strike out all this because it trespasses on the limits of my synopsis. But then I decided, no, I shall not. Let this diary give the curve of the most imperceptible vibrations of my brain, like a precise seismograph. For at times such as vibrations serve as forewarnings. Certainly this is absurd. This certainly should have been stricken out. We have conquered all the elements. Catastrophes are not possible anymore. Now everything is clear to me. The peculiar feelings inside is a result of that very same square situation of which I spoke in the beginning. There is no X in me. There can be none. I am simply afraid lest some X will be left in you, my unknown reader. I believe you will understand that it is harder for me to write than ever was for any author throughout human history. Some of them wrote for contemporaries, some for the future generations, but none of them ever wrote for their ancestors or beings like their primitive, distant ancestors. And that's chapter 5. So a lot of these are diary entries, and I believe what he means by X is like an unknown in algebra, an algebraic X. He's ultimately human, but he functions like a machine. So he's trying to understand himself completely, and his humanity is just kind of just boiling below the surface. And he's afraid to let it out. He's afraid to examine it for real. I think I will continue. I'm just going to get another drink of water, maybe stretch. When I hold my phone toward the light, it turns the light on again. But then if I do this, oh, maybe not. I don't know. I can't decide. Let's just turn that up higher. Did you hear that? I wonder if I listen back to this VOD if I could have heard that. That was at 1:20 was my back cracking. Maybe I should crack my joints on stream. See if that gets any attention. Alright, record 6. An ancient, the cursed, it's clear, 24 hours. I must repeat, I made it my duty to write concealing nothing. Therefore, I must point out now that, sad as it may be, the process of hardening and crystallization of life has evidently not been completed even here in our state. A few steps remain to be made before we reach the ideal. The ideal, it's clear, is to be found where nothing happens, but here I will give you an example. In the state paper, I read that in 2 days the holiday of justice will be celebrated on the plaza of the Cube. This means that again some number will has impeded the smooth run of the great state machine. Again, something that was not foreseen or forecalculated happened. Besides, something happened to me. True, it occurred during the personal hour, that is, during the time specifically assigned to unforeseen circumstances, yet, at about 16, to be exact, 10 minutes to 16, I was at home. Suddenly the telephone. D503? A woman's voice. Yes. Are you free? Yes. It is I330. I shall run over to you immediately. We shall go together to the ancient house. Agreed? I330. This I irritates me, repels me. She almost frightens me. But just because of that, I answered, yes. In 5 minutes, we were at the Arrow. Blue sky of May. Here we go already. The light sun in its golden arrow buzzed behind us without catching up and without lagging behind. Ahead of us was a white cataract of cloud. Yes, a white cataract of a cloud nonsensically fluffy, like the cheeks of an ancient Cupid. That cloud was disturbing. The front window was open. It was windy. Lips were dry. Against one's will, one passed the tongue constantly over them and thought about lips. Already we saw the distance and the hazy green spots on the other side of the wall. Then a slight involuntary sinking of the heart, down, 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 as if from a steep mountain, and we were at the ancient house. That strange, delicate, blind establishment is all covered around with a glass shell, otherwise it would undoubtedly have fallen to pieces long ago. At the glass door, we found an old woman, all wrinkles, especially her mouth, which was all made up of folds and pleats. Her lips had disappeared, having folded inward. Her mouth seemed grown together. It seemed incredible that she should be able to talk, and yet she said, "Well, dear, come again to see my little house." Her wrinkles shone, that is, her wrinkles diverged like rays, which created the impression of shining. "Yes, grandmother," answered I330. The wrinkles continued to shine. "And the sun, eh? Do you see it, you rogue, you? I know. It's all right. Go all by yourselves. I shall remain here in the sunshine." Apparently my companion was a frequent guest here. Something disturbed me, probably that unpleasant optical impression, the cloud on the smooth blue surface of the sky. Welcome to the stream. While we were ascending the wide, dark stairs, I330 said, "I love her, that old woman." "Why?" "I don't know. Perhaps for her mouth, or perhaps for nothing. Just so." I shrugged my shoulders. She continued walking upstairs with a faint smile, or perhaps without a smile at all. I felt very guilty. It is clear that there must not be love, just so, but love because of, for all elements of nature should be. "It's clear," I began, but I stopped at the word and cast a furtive look at I330. Did she notice it or not? She looked somewhere, down. Her eyes were closed, like curtains. It struck me suddenly, evening about 22. You walk on the avenue, and among the brightly lighted, transparent, cubic cells are dark spaces, lower curtains, and there beyond the curtains. What has she behind her curtains? Why did she phone me today? Why did she bring me here? And all this. She opened a heavy, squeaking, opaque door, and we found ourselves in a somber, disorderly space. They called it an apartment. The same strange, royal, musical instrument, and a wild, unorganized, crazy loudness of colors, and formed like their ancient music. A white plane above, dark blue walls, red, green, orange bindings of ancient books, yellow bronze candelabras, a statue of Buddha, furniture with lines distorted by epilepsy, impossible to reduce to any clear equation. I could hardly bear that chaos, but my companion apparently possessed a stronger constitution. "This is my most beloved," she suddenly caught herself. Again a smile, bite, and sharp white teeth. "To be more exact, the most nonsensical of all apartments. Or to be most exact, of all the states. Thousands of microscopic states, fighting eternal wars, pitiless, like—" "Oh yes, it's clear," said I-330, with apparent sincerity. We passed through the room, where we found a few small children's beds. Children in those days were also private property. Damn. It's true. I mean, in a way, he's making a point. Then more rooms, glimmering mirrors, somber closets, unbearably loud-colored divans, an enormous fireplace, a large mahogany bed. Our contemporary, beautiful, transparent, eternal glass was represented here only by pitiful, delicate, tiny squares of windows. And to think, here there was love, just so. They burned and tortured themselves. Again, the curtains of the eyes was lowered. What a stupid, uneconomical spending of human energy. Am I not right? She spoke as though reading my thoughts, but in her smile there remained always an irritating X. There, behind the curtains, something was going on. I don't know what, but something that made me lose my patience. I wanted to quarrel with her, to scream at her, exactly to scream, but I had to agree. It was impossible not to agree. She stopped in front of a mirror. At that moment I only saw her eyes. An idea came to me. Human beings are built as nonsensically as these stupid apartments. Human heads are opaque, and there are only two very small windows that lead inside, the eyes. She seemed to have guessed my thoughts. She turned around. "Well, here they are, my eyes. Well?" This suddenly, then silence. There were in front of me two gloomy, dark windows, and behind them, inside, such strange hidden life. I saw there only fire, burning like a peculiar fireplace, and unknown features resembling. All of this was certainly very natural. I saw in her eyes the reflection of my own face. But my feelings were unnatural and not like me. Evidently, the depressing influence of the surroundings were beginning to tell on me. I felt definitely fear. I felt as if I were trapped and caged in a strange cage. I felt that I was caught in a wild hurricane of ancient life. "Do you know?" said I-330. "Step out for a moment into the next room." Her voice came from there, from inside, from behind the dark window eyes, where the fireplace was blazing. I went out, sat down. From a shelf on the wall there looked straight into my face, somewhat smilingly, a snub-nosed, asymmetrical physiognomy of one of the ancient poets. I think it was Pushkin. Why do I sit here, enduring this smile with such recognition? And what is it all about? Why am I here? And why all these strange sensations, this irritating, repellent female, this strange game? The door of the closet slammed. There was a rustle of silk. I felt it difficult to restrain myself from getting up, and I don't remember exactly. Probably I wanted to tell her a number of disagreeable things, but she had already appeared. She was dressed in a short, bright yellowish dress, black hat, black stockings. The dress was of light silk. I saw clearly every long black stocking above the knees and uncovered neck and the shadow between. "It's clear that you want to seem original, but it is possible that you I can't speak. Let me try one more time. It is clear that you want to seem original, but is it possible that you... It is clear," interrupted I-330, "that to be original means to stand out among others. Consequently, to be original means to violate the law of equality. What was called in the language of the ancients to be common is with us only to be fulfilling of one's duty. For, yes, exactly, I interrupted impatiently. And there is no use, no use. She came near the bust of the snub-nosed poet, lowered the curtains in the wild fire of her eyes, and said, this time I think she was really in earnest, or perhaps she merely wanted to soften my impatience with her. But she said a very reasonable thing. Don't you think it's surprising. Ugh, I tried so hard. Let me try one more time. Don't you think it's surprising that once people could stand types like this? Not only stand them, but worship them. What a slavish spirit. Don't you think so? It's clear. That is, I wanted... Damn that cursed word. It's clear. It's clear. I'm adding words now. Oh yes, I understand. But in fact, these were rulers stronger than the crowned ones. Why were they not isolated and exterminated? In our state, oh yes, in our state, I began. Suddenly she laughed. I saw the laughter in her eyes. I saw the resounding, ooh, there's a train. Suddenly she laughed. I saw the laughter in her eyes. I saw the resounding sharp curve of that laughter, flexible, tense like a whip. I remembered my whole body shivered. I thought of grasping her. And I don't know what. I had to do something. Mattered little what. Automatically, I looked at my golden badge, glanced at my watch. 10 minutes to 17. Don't you think it's a time to go? I said, as polite a tone as possible. And if I should ask you to stay here with me? What? Do you realize what you are saying? In 10 minutes, I must be in the auditorium. And all the numbers must take prescribed courses in art and science, said I-330 with my voice. And then she lifted the curtain, opened her eyes. Through the dark windows the fire was blazing. I have a physician at the medical bureau. He is registered to me. If I ask him, he will give you a certificate declaring that you are ill. All right? Understood. At last I understood where this game was leading. Ah, so. But you know that every honest number, as a matter of course, must immediately go to the office of the guardians, and as a matter not of course, sharp smile, bite. I am very curious to know, will you or will you not go to the guardians? Are you going to remain here? I grasped the knob of the door. It was a brass knob, a cold brass knob, and I heard, cold like brass, her voice. Just a minute. May I? She went to the phone, called a number. I was so upset it escaped me, and spoke loudly. I shall be waiting for you in the ancient house. Yes, alone. I turned the cold brass knob. May I take the arrow? Oh yes, certainly, please. In the sunshine at the gate, the old woman was dozing like a plant. Again, I was surprised to see her grown together, mouth open, and hear her say, And your lady, did she remain alone? Alone. The mouth of the old woman grew together again. She shook her head. Apparently even her weakened brain understood the stupidity and the danger of the behavior of that woman. At 17 o'clock exactly, I was at the lecture, where I suddenly realized that I did not tell the whole truth to the old woman. I-330 was not there alone now. Possibly this fact, that I involuntarily told the old woman a lie, was torturing me now and distracting my attention. Yes, not alone. That was the point. After 21:30 o'clock, I had a free hour. I could therefore have gone to the office of the guardians to make my report, but after that stupid adventure I was so tired. Besides, the law provides 2 days. I shall have time tomorrow. I shall have another 24 hours. Wow, we've already read 6 chapters. Thank you for my one viewer sticking around. I believe I'm going to go for about 2 hours and then call it a night, which means we have about 25 more minutes. I will probably take one more final break, and then I will be back. Just a moment. And we're back. I realize my sounds have gotten a lot quieter, so I'm going to turn them up just a tad. Okay. I think we have time for a final chapter. So we'll finish the night off with Record 7, or Chapter 7 of We by, you know his name, it's in the description. So let's continue. An Eyelash, Taylor, Henbane, and Lily of the Valley. Night, green, orange, blue. The red royal instrument, the yellow dress, then a brass Buddha. Suddenly it lifted the brass eyelids and snapped again to the flow from it, from Buddha. Sap also from the yellow. Sap began to flow from it. Sap also from the yellow dress. Even in the mirror, drops of sap, and from the large bed, and from the children's bedroom, and soon from myself. It was horror, mortally sweet horror. I woke up. Soft blue light, glass of the walls, of the chairs, of the table was glimmering. It calmed me. My heart stopped palpitating. Sap. Buddha. How absurd. I am sick. It is clear. I never saw dreams before. They say that to see dreams is a common normal thing with the ancients. Yes, after all, their life was a whirling carousel. Green, orange, Buddha, sap. But we, people of today, we know all too well that daydreaming is a serious mental disease. It is possible that my brain, that precise, clean, glittering mechanism, like a chronometer without a speck of dust on it, yes it is, now, I feel there in my brain some foreign body like an eyelash in the eye. One does not feel one's body, but this eye with a hair in it, one cannot forget it for a second. The cheerful, crystalline sound of the bell at my head. 7 o'clock. Time to get up. To the right and to the left, as in mirrors. To the right and to the left, through the glass walls, I see others like myself, other rooms like my own, other clothes like my own, movements like mine, duplicated thousands of times. This invigorates me. I see myself as part of an enormous, vigorous, united body. And what precise beauty. Not a single superfluous gesture, or bow, or turn. Yes, this tailor is undoubtedly the greatest genius of the ancients. True, he did not come into the idea of applying his methods to the whole life, to every step throughout the 24 hours of the day. He was unable to integrate his system from 1 o'clock to 24. I cannot understand the ancients. How could they write whole libraries about some Kant and take notice only slightly of Taylor, of this prophet who saw 10 centuries ahead? Breakfast was over. The hymn of the United States had been harmoniously sung rhythmically. 4 abreast we walked to the elevators. The motors buzzed faintly, and swiftly we went down, 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 the heart sinking slightly. Again, that stupid dream, or some unknown function of that dream. Oh, yes, yesterday in the arrow, then down, down. Well, it was all over anyhow. Period. It was very fortunate that I was so firm and brusque with her. The car of the Underground Railway carried me swiftly to the place where the motionless, beautiful body of the integral, not yet spiritualized by fire, was glittering in the docks of the sunshine. Again I calculated in my mind what was the intentional velocity required to tear away the integral from the earth. Every second the mass of the integral would change because of the expenditure of the explosive fuel. The equation was very complex with transcendent figures. As in a dream I felt, right here in the firm calculated world, how someone sat down at my side, barely touching me, and said, "Pardon." I opened my eyes. At first, apparently, because of the association with the integral, I saw something impetuously flying into the distance. Ahead, I saw pink, wing-eared, sticking out on the sides of it, and the curve of the overhanging back of the head, a double-curved S. Through the glass walls of my algebraic world, again I felt the eyelash in my eye. I felt something disagreeable. I felt that today I must. "Certainly, please." I smiled at my neighbor and bowed. Number S4711. I saw glittering in his golden badge. That is why I associated him with the letter S from the first moment, an optical impression which remained unregistered by consciousness. His eyes sparkled, 2 sharp little drills. They were revolving swiftly, drilling in deeper and deeper. It seemed that in a moment they would drill to the bottom and would see something I do not even dare to confess to myself. That bothersome eyelash became wholly clear to me. S was one of them, one of the guardians. And it would be the simplest thing immediately, without deferring, to tell him everything. I went yesterday to the ancient house. My voice was strange, husky, flat. I tried to cough. That is good. I must have given you material for some instructive deductions. Yes, but, you see, I was not alone. I was in the company of I-330, and then I-330. You are fortunate. She is a very interesting, gifted woman. She has a host of admirers. But he, too, then, during the promenade. Perhaps he is even assigned as her he number? No, it isn't possible to tell. Unthinkable. This was perfectly clear. Yes, certainly, very. I smiled, broader and broader, more stupidly, and felt as if my smile made me look foolish, naked. The drills reached the bottom. Revolving continually, they screwed themselves back into his eyes. S smiled, double-curved, nodded, and slid to the exit. I covered my face with the newspaper. I felt as if everyone were looking at me. And soon I forgot about the eyelash, about the little drills, about everything. I was so upset by what I read in the paper. According to authentic information, traces of an organization which still remains out of reach have again been discovered. This organization aims at liberation of the beneficial yoke of the state. Liberation? It is remarkable how persistent human criminal instincts are. I use deliberately the word criminal, for freedom and crime are as closely related as the movement of an arrow and its speed. Of the speed of an arrow equals 0. The arrow is motionless. If human liberty is equal to 0, man does not commit any crime. That is clear. The way to rid man of criminality is to rid him of freedom. No sooner did we rid ourselves of freedom, in the cosmic sense, centuries are only a no sooner, than suddenly some unknown pitiful degenerates. No, I cannot understand why I did not go immediately yesterday to the Bureau of the Guardians. Today, after 16 o'clock, I shall go there without fail. At 16:10, I was in the street, and once I noticed 090 in the corner. She was all rosy with delight at the encounter. She has a simple, round mind, a timely meeting. She would understand and lend me support. Or, no. I did not need any support. My decision was firm. The pipes of the musical tower thundered out harmoniously the march, the same daily march. How wonderful the charms in its dailiness, of this constant repetition and mirror-like smoothness. Out for a walk? Her round blue eyes opened toward me widely, blue windows leading inside. I penetrate there unhindered. There is nothing in there. I mean, nothing foreign, nothing superfluous. No, not for a walk. I must go. I told her where, and to my astonishment I saw her rosy round mouth form a crescent with the horns downward, as if she tasted something sour. This angered me. You, she numbers, seem to be incurably eaten up by prejudices. You are absolutely unable to think abstractly. Forgive me the word, but I call this bluntness of mind. You, to the spies, how ugly! And I went to the botanical gardens and brought you a branch of lily of the valley. Why? And I? Why this and? Just like a woman. Angrily, I must confess, I snatched the flowers. Here they are, your lilies of the valley. Well, smell them. Good? Yes? Why not use a little bit of logic? The lilies of the valley smell good, all right, but you cannot say about an odor, about the conception of an odor, is that it is good or bad. Can you? You can't tell, can you? There is the smell of the lily of the valleys, and there is the disagreeable smell of henbane. Both are odors. The ancient states had their spies. We have ours. Yes, spies. I'm not afraid of words. But it is not clear to you that there are spies, the spies were henbane. Here the spies are lily of the valley. Yes, lilies of the valley. Yes. The rosy crescent quivered. Now I understand that it was only my impression, but at the moment I was certain that she was going to laugh. I shouted still louder, yes, lilies of the valley. And there is nothing funny about it, nothing funny. The smooth round globes of heads passing were now turned toward us. 090 gently took my hand. You are so strange today. Are you ill? My dream, yellow color, Buddha. It was once borne clearly upon me that I must go to the medical bureau. Yes, you are right. I am sick, I said with joy, and it seems to me an inexplicable contradiction. There was nothing to be joyful about. You must go at once to the doctor. You understand that. You are obliged to be healthy, and it seems strange to prove it to you. My dear O, of course you are right, absolutely right. I did not go to the Bureau of the Guardians. I could not. I had to go to the medical bureau. They kept me there until 17 o'clock. In the evening, incidentally, the Bureau of Guardians was closed evenings. In the evening, O came to see me. The curtains were not lowered. We busied ourselves in the arithmetical. It's arithmetic plus AL, and for some reason I can't find the right emphasis. Maybe later on I'll figure it out. The arithmetical problems of an ancient textbook. This occupation always calms and purifies our thoughts. O sat over her notebook, her head slightly inclined to the left. She was so assiduous that she poked out her left cheek with her tongue from within. She looked so childlike, so charming. I felt everything in me was pleasant, precise, and simple. She left. I remained alone. I breathed deeply 2 times. It is very good exercise before retiring for the night. Suddenly, an unexpected odor reminiscent of something very disagreeable. I soon found out what was the matter. A branch of the lily of the valley was hidden in my bed. Immediately, everything was aroused again, came up from the bottom. Decidedly, it was tactless on her part serendipitously to put these lilies of the valley there. Well, true, I did not go. I didn't. But was it my fault that I felt indisposed? And that's probably going to be it for the night. It is about a minute left for 2 hours. For here, I'm going to sign off. And again, this was, let me pull up the cover. This is We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. It is public domain, so I figured it was safe to read. I've been playing just rainstorm sounds, and the other sound I was playing on YouTube is a old library ambiance, rain sounds, book sounds, writing sounds, candle flame crackle. And that was uploaded by Autumn Cozy. And I think I'll finish off here by saying, if you'd like to read my first published work called The Accordion Train, it is available for free at slfunkrights.com, and it is also available on Kobo under the same title and the same author name. It is completely free, but if you go to my website, that is slfunkrights.com, you will be prompted to sign up for a monthly newsletter that goes out every month on the 28th, so at the end of this month, a new update will go out. This is just to show support as I try to grow my authorship, and I have a new book release planned coming in a few months, so to get the latest news and free discounts for everything coming up, please sign up. And thank you so much for helping me with this experimental stream, and I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you soon.